Hey everyone, it's Sarah of sarahsbites.com and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to show you guys how to make these delicious cranberry orange scones. And you guys can also use this recipe to make blueberry scones, lemon scones, really any type of scones that you like. But I'm going to show you with cranberries inside. So let's get started. We'll start by grabbing a large mixing bowl and go ahead and sift in 2 cups of all-purpose flour, and make sure you don't skip the sifting part because it does make a difference for scones in my opinion. And I have tried it with skipping the sifting and they do turn out a little bit different. And then we're going to go ahead and add in 1 tablespoon of baking powder, a half a cup of granulated sugar, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And right before we mix all these, we're going to go ahead and grate about a half a tablespoon of orange zest. So I do recommend cutting your butter into little cubes before you even start doing anything really, and just stick it in the fridge. So at this point you're going to add in a half a cup of unsalted butter that is cut into little cubes and that you just now pulled out of the fridge, because you do want to make sure it's super cold. And when you use your pastry cutter, you can also use a large fork here or a regular fork, really whatever works for you. The pastry cutter does make it a little bit easier to cut the butter into the flour, and then it makes for a bit of a coarse texture. You can see little pieces of butter mixed in with that flour. To this mixture, we're going to add in 1.5 cups of frozen cranberries, and you're just going to kind of stir them around to lightly coat them with that flour. I do recommend using frozen cranberries because it will help keep the entire mixture cold, just like that butter did. So if you have room temp cranberries, just go ahead and stick them in the freezer for maybe 10 to 15 minutes before you add them to this. Now grab another small bowl, or you can do it in a mixing cup. We're going to add in a half a cup of cold heavy cream, and as you can tell, the theme here is everything is pretty much kept cold. To that, you're going to add in 1 cold egg as well, so not room temperature. And then you're going to just add in a half a teaspoon of vanilla for flavor, and just go ahead and stir those together. Next, we're going to go ahead and dump this into your dry ingredients bowl and get a spatula and just sort of gently stir everything together, only for about 30 seconds to 45 seconds, not too long. You just want to make sure that the liquid kind of is absorbed by all that flour, and then we're going to go ahead and keep incorporating all these ingredients together as you're folding the dough. So we'll get to that step next. Just make sure that you're not over stirring here. Now lightly flour your countertop, and you're going to put all that dough on top of that. Get some flour on your hands as well, just because that dough is pretty sticky at this point, and kind of combine everything into like sort of a ball square. It doesn't really matter because we're going to start folding it anyway. You just want to combine all of this at first. We're going to start folding the dough, so don't worry about crushing the cranberries. If anything, I think it makes them taste even better when they sort of burst inside that dough. But I like to do about 8 to 10 folds. Here I did 10 folds, and it's going to look kind of crazy in the beginning, like it doesn't even resemble anything like scone dough, and very crumbly. But as you keep folding it over and over, that dough will come together more. And then you're just going to kind of keep using flour as needed on your hands, just so that it doesn't stick to your hands or the countertop. And then shape that dough into a disc. And I like to keep mine about 1.25 inches thick. So 1 inch to 1.25 inches for tall, fluffy scones. Grab a sharp knife, and you're gonna cut out 8 scones out of this disc. So you can even do thinner scones really, because they do fluff out into big scones. So you can even make 10, 12, 16, kind of play around with it. But I do like the big thick scones, and I mean, I eat 1 entire scone myself anyway, so I think these are perfect sizes. Get these lined up on some parchment paper. Start to preheat your oven to 400 degrees, and while that is preheating, go ahead and brush the tops of the scones with some cold heavy cream. Pop them in the oven for about 20 to 22 minutes, and you'll see they will turn a little bit brown on top, which is perfect. And while those are baking, we're going to go ahead and make our orange glaze for the top. This is super easy to make. All you need is 3/4 cup of powdered sugar, 1 tablespoon of orange juice, which you can use from that orange that we zested earlier or just bottled orange juice, and 2 tablespoons of heavy cream. Just stir all these together. You may need to add more or less heavy cream, so you can start off with just 1 tablespoon and just kind of look at that consistency. Once the scones are done baking, let them sit for about 10 to 15 minutes at room temperature, just so that your glaze does not melt on top. Once they cool off a little bit, use a whisk or spoon and do your best Jackson Pollock impression and just have fun with throwing that glaze all over the scones. And then let them sit for another 10 to 15 minutes, just so that your glaze does sort of harden up on top, or just going to be gooey glaze all over. And I mean, you can even eat them while they're still warm and fresh. Really any way that you enjoy them. I really hope you guys love this recipe. I love scones, and cranberry orange is one of my absolute favorite flavors. So I do hope you guys give it a try. If you do, let me know what you think. Consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already, and give me a thumbs up below if you enjoy this recipe. And please let me know in the comments below if you did bake them or if you added any other fruit. These would be amazing with blueberries as well. So just play around with different fruit. I really don't think there's any way to mess up scones. So just play around with the recipe, and I promise you're going to enjoy it. Enjoy it with some coffee or tea, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.